With computer games becoming more and more realistic, censorship's becoming more and more of an issue. So I thought I'd chat to the guys at BBFC to find out how they come about their ratings. For example, this is a 12. If I take my top off, it's a 15.
It's based on the Video Recordings Act, which was written in 1984, and obviously at the time games weren't anything near what they are now. So they've set out some specific criteria as to what needs to be in a game in order to be classified.
Yeah.
And it includes things like human sexual activity, gross violence towards humans or animals, urinary or excretory functions, anything that might be useful in the commission of an offence.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff, if that's in a game, then it needs to come to us by law.
What's the process then? Is it like a single person, or groups of people, or is it like a panel?
There's 2 examiners view almost every game.
Yeah.
If it's really controversial, then it might go to another team of 2 or 3, and sometimes kind of everyone who does games sees something.
Yeah.
But most games it's 2 people, and we play it for about a day. We try and get through as much as we can. We get things like cheat codes and walkthroughs and stuff from the company to help us kind of work our way through, so we can see all the different aspects of the game, which you're not just kind of stuck on the first couple of levels.
One thing that is sort of confusing for people is there's different types of classifications, isn't there?
Well, PEGI is a voluntary scheme that's across Europe, and it kind of replaced what we did have, which was the ELSPA scheme in the 90s. And it's basically something that companies can sign up to and have some kind of rating on their game, and know that the games aren't going to be sold to the youngest kids, or at least probably not, because there's no actual statutory requirement not to sell say a 16 plus PEGI game to a child.
The Bible doesn't promote killing innocent people. Grand Theft Auto does.
The original one, it came through with a 15 request, that one, and I think...
Did you laugh?
I think people may have laughed. I think it wasn't going to be a 15 for very long. It was, again, part of that is the motivation of the game, because the detail in the original GTA is very, very small indeed, literally. But the motivation of what you're being asked to do repeatedly, you know, break laws and run people over and get points for it, and be, you know, rejoicing at running over Hare Krishnas and stuff. Yeah. It's controversial.
You know, there are psychopaths everywhere. Some of them are in government, some of them are at Take-Two. In fact, we got a bunch of psychopaths in Edinburgh, Scotland, sitting around in their kilt, sipping single malt whiskey, spreading racial, hurtful stereotypes in this country. And I love this country.
Has anything ever been close to being banned?
Well, we banned Carmageddon was the only one, and that was overturned on appeal in the late 90s. We cut a couple of games again, probably mid to late 90s, that it was video material that we would have cut if it was in a horror film at that point, really. But the gameplay itself didn't pose as a problem. The Punisher was probably the one that caused the most discussion.
What was the main issue there with the Punisher?
It was the kind of the interrogation scenes, particularly in the torture sequences, and the kind of the fear that there was too great a level of sadism and kind of reveling in that. But ultimately, it was past 18.
Honestly, are you gamers on drugs or what?
I might be getting it wrong, but it sounds like it's pretty hard to get a game banned. How far would you have to go?
I think the thing is that people don't tend to put the stuff into games which usually causes a problem for us on film.
Yeah.
The thing that we most often have a problem with is sexual violence.
Yeah.
Because it's something that the research that's been done into media effects does kind of support that it could be harmful.
Yeah.
Whereas most of the research on violence and on other things says, you know, not great to show it to kids, but for adults it's probably not going to have much of an effect. And you know, there's about the same number of arguments either way.
Yeah.
But where you come to kind of rape and sexual assault and so on, it does lean more in the direction of, this could be harmful to a small number of people, but still is maybe a problem. It doesn't really show up in games very much.
Why don't you buy a suicide game, practice that, and get real good at it?
A lot of games companies are making their games for adults, they're designing them for adults, and they're selling them to adults, and they don't expect them to get into kids, although I'm sure they expect that some will. Yeah. But that's certainly not what they're looking for. And I can't speak for every game company, but you know, the average gamer in the UK is 29, so it's not an industry that is geared towards children. Yeah. But calling it a game makes a lot of parents think it is. Yeah. If you look at the games on the shelf, the majority of them are below 18. Well, the majority of them are PEGI games, and they would be kind of, you know, 3+, 7+, and 12+. But if you look at the best-selling games, a lot of those are the 18s and the 15s. Yeah. And I think that reflects the fact that the people with the disposable income are the gamers who've grown up playing games, and I'm kind of my age, 32, and you know, have got the wherewithal to actually get the games that they want to get. Anecdotally, at least, there's a lot of evidence of you know, parents getting their kids 18-rated games when they wouldn't dream of showing them an 18-rated film.
Yeah.
They just don't seem to, because they you know, may never have played games themselves. They don't really know what's in them and don't get that game isn't necessarily for kids.